And right now, we're just gonna go to the forest together, wherever the forest is near you. Think about where you are, what you're standing on, the weather at the time, what type of season is going on, and why you're there. And when you're there, think about, how does the air smell? Is the wind moving? Do you hear anything? Okay. And now we'll come back to where we are right now. And I just want to thank you for taking a time to move into a different space. I said a forest, and sometimes people have never been to a forest, so you might have needed to imagine a little bit more. But think about what we just went through. Could you smell the air? Did you feel wind? What season was it? And did you see anybody? Did you see any people? If you're with other people, raise your hand if you saw people, so people can know that you saw people. And why that is an important part is because most times when we do this exercise, nobody sees people in the forest, maybe 1 out of 100. And that's what I do. My name is Kamelamela, Dr. Kamelamela, born and raised on Oahu, currently living in Hilo. Moved here to chase my childhood happiness. And forest is a part of that. When we think of people, we don't think of them in forests. We think of forests as places that make themselves. They just are. But what my research shows, as an ethnobotanist, I study the relationships between people and plants, specifically forest gathering practices in Hawaii as it relates to Native Hawaiian gathering practices, cultural lifestyles, and ways of being. Those things are often forgotten. In a place and in a land that people view as paradise, Native Hawaiians have the highest suicide rate. In a place that's viewed as paradise with the beauty of the mountains and the rivers, Native Hawaiians have the highest obesity and epidemic rates. We're at the highest cost of loss in our own land. And how did I become a Hawaiian scientist? Was because of those demographics. There's some pretty pivotal moments, probably the biggest part being that my mom was sick most of my life. And before she got her transplant for her kidney, it was the 1995 recognition of the 100-year of the overthrow. And this word sovereignty kept coming up. And I was like, Mom, what's sovereignty? And she couldn't answer me. And so that is part of my journey of becoming a scientist, is identifying what is personal choice in this land that I call home, that I'm a native daughter of, seeing so many of my family members perish to drugs, lack of resources, in a place that people flock to because it's paradise. And the second question, again, the first one was, what is sovereignty? Again, my mom was sick most of my time growing up, and I would go to the doctors with her all the time. One time I went to Kobayashi's office with her nephrologist, and I looked at her and I was like, Mom, what's a cyst? And I couldn't understand it. And then I looked at Kobayashi and I said, I'm gonna heal her one day. And 10 years ago she passed, and I didn't get to do that. But what I do get to do is help to heal other families and their relationships with land who have been disconnected, disenfranchised, and in some cases, legally exorcised from their lineal descendant lands. So what do? I'm an ethnobotanist again. I study the relationships between people and plants. More expansively, I'm an ethnoecologist, and I study the relationship of people and their environment, plants, rocks, wind, rain, all of those things that make Hawaii practices in Hawaii landscapes possible. Hawaii is one of the most isolated places in the world, if not the most isolated place in the world. The Galapagos Islands to Hawaii is nothing. The amount of biocultural resiliency and diversity that Hawaii holds is a product of our volcanic landscape, our microclimates, and the pressure of human engagement, not just what we think of as urbanization, but literally those relationships that we pride our Hawaii culture on today. Mailele, baby parties, underground ovens, spending time with family. When people think of Hawaii, they don't think of any of those things. They think of coconut bras, they think of grass huts, they think of canoes. All of the things that I'm very proud of that my ancestors created to shelter us and get us to where we are today in one of the most, again, isolated places on Earth. Hawaii practices on Hawaii landscapes is an idea that I came up with through practice in my dissertation. I am an urban Hawaiian, born and raised on the most populous island in our chain. I did not go hiking. I did not go surfing growing up, things that you would think would be typical of a native Hawaiian. My father was raised in Kalapana, in a place where they had no electricity. They had to use fire to make their bath water. And he never wanted that for me. And joke's on him because now it's my job and now it's what I do. But I really want to share this one story about Hawaii practices in Hawaii landscapes. One of the most contentious items in Hawaii as a conservationist is the presence of pigs in our forests. And that being because they were brought over by Polynesian voyagers and have impacts that have recorded on our forest. So Hawaii practices in Hawaii landscape story is one that comes from my family, or a family experience at the Ayo family reunion. Community members that I worked with in Kona came, and so we saw that we were both part of the Ayo Ohana, or the family. And Uncle Keoki came up to me and asked, I always had this cousin who was older than me and lived at Auntie Julia's, and when I used to go visit, he used to clank coconuts, and I've always wanted to meet him. So I told Uncle Keoki, Auntie Julia might be my great-grandmother. My father lived with her while he was growing up. Let me go ask him. And so I go and ask my dad, tell him about this story, and he looks up from his Hawaiian plate at me like I'm an idiot. Like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, that was me. And he said it in such a way that I was supposed to know that part of his life, and I'd never heard of it. So they had met, and Uncle Keoki got to meet his cousin who got to clank coconuts, and my father expanded on that and said that he used to clank coconuts to get the pigs out from the forest when he was a kid, so 70s, 60s. The pigs used to come and they used to feed them, and once in a while they would collect one pig. Because the pigs were in the forest, there weren't many people that lived there, not like how there's development today. And so families in Kalapana, as a show of Hawaii practices on Hawaii landscapes, used to mark the pigs either on the ear, and there's a book now about it. My dad told me, yeah, that's how we used to manage our resources. Again, a place with no running water or electricity. And so thinking about conservation in Hawaii, Hawaii practices on Hawaii landscapes, the idea is very pragmatic and practical for our microclimates, for the needs of the people, and for the resources that are available. And so through my work of engaging with Native Hawaiian and other forest practitioners, if we want to move forward in a meaningful way about climate change, we need to listen to people who are closest to those resources on a daily value. And so Hawaii practices on Hawaii landscapes can be adapted not just within Hawaii, but outside of Hawaii. What are the elements, the geography, what makes your place your place? What gives it its personality? And that's what Hawaii practices on Hawaii landscapes is working with the land, the people, and the resources in a regenerative way.